Audi, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. You can't talk about one of them without having the other two at least come to your mind. Audi makes some of the most beautiful and desired cars in the automotive industry, having sold over 1.6 million cars in the year 2022, competing with other massive car brands like BMW and Mercedes. However, when comparing the three, Audi always seems to come up short. In this video, I will talk about the differences between the three brands, focusing on design, build quality, and most importantly, the actual feeling you get when driving each of the three. Quick disclaimer, this video is not about degrading Audi as a brand. I am an Audi owner myself, and I love my car. Still, from my personal experience, I've noticed some major flaws that will never allow Audi to rise to the level of its two greatest competitors. This is the Audi Curse. Design. I will stick by what I said earlier, which is that Audi makes some of the world's most beautiful cars. Their design is almost flawless. I mean, just look at the latest A7. From the outside, it looks like a mean and angry machine designed for only one purpose, not letting any car sit in front of it. Their latest interior designs leave something to be desired. They are pretty bland and don't possess any remarkable features, just two large screens sitting on top of each other. On the other end of the spectrum, I believe the interior of the A6 C7, the generation of A6 built from 2011 to 2016, is one of the most beautiful interiors ever designed. And I'm not talking about technology. I'm talking about the actual feeling you get when you sit inside and that screen pops out in front of you. It gives you the feeling that you're about to take off in a plane, that is, until you get to drive the car. Audi really only made one ugly car in its entire lifetime. That being the Audi A2, that thing is just an abomination on four wheels. It's neither fast nor reliable, and it definitely doesn't look good. Sure, you can't debate taste, but no one can look at that car and think to themselves, that's a good-looking car. I should buy one because I love the way it looks. This is not a mistake in itself. Both of Audi's competitors are guilty of this. BMW made the E46 Compact, which makes up for the atrocious design with its driving experience. But when you compare looks alone, it is not much better than the A2. And let's not forget about Mercedes' first generation of A-Class, which managed to be reborn years later in the beautiful machine it is today, washing the shame off the brand's name. When you look at the beautiful cars that these three big names manufacture today, it makes you realize that the models I mentioned earlier were just a learning curve, which led to the eye-catching designs that we see today. The idea behind each of them was to try to provide a more affordable alternative to owning a high-end car, but let bygones be bygones is what I always say. So let's talk about the design of the latest models. BMW was criticized that all of its models from the F generation looked the same. Mercedes took that as a provocation and won the challenge with its next generation. But all jokes aside, after receiving this complaint, BMW gave birth to these monstrous front grilles you see on the latest models, which at first I thought looked horrible. But after a while, their design started to grow on me. I believe there is nothing wrong in trying to stand out from the crowd, even if that means you will be criticized even more in the beginning. Mercedes stuck more with its roots than BMW and kept pretty much the same design as his previous generation. The only problem with this being that you need a measuring tape to tell the difference between an A-Class and an S-Class. Imagine paying more than $100,000 just for someone to say, "Hey, nicer class." In regards to design, Audi kept a perfect record since the year 2000. Counting out the A2, all of its other cars from small hatchbacks to SUVs to big and long sedans are gorgeous. The only real problem I have with the latest generation cars from these three manufacturers is the interior design. It's lifeless, full of useless technology that does nothing more than disconnect the driver from the actual driving experience. It makes you feel as if you're driving your smartphone down the road. Big screens stacked one on top of each other, or one next to the other. For me, pressing an actual button, hearing it click, and feeling the pressure under my finger as I'm driving down the road just makes me feel more in touch with the machine I'm driving. In terms of design, there's nothing really to complain about when it comes to Audi, besides what I mentioned earlier. It is still holding strong in the race with BMW and Mercedes. Then what exactly is the problem with Audi? Well, in a few minutes, you will understand why I had to mention the fact that Audi makes some of the most beautiful cars in the world, because this also plays a big role into their main weakness. And before you ask, no, it is not related in any way with reliability and maintenance costs. Let's talk about the build quality, which also plays a big role into Audi's main weakness. Build quality. When you compare the three German brands, Audi is the one that is slightly cheaper than the rest of the two. You can save yourself quite a bit of money when it comes to purchasing one of them second-hand if you go with Audi. You can also save yourself some money when it comes to maintenance, Audi having slightly cheaper parts, but cheaper parts don't equal worse quality when it comes to Audi. In my opinion, there's nothing worse than paying more than $50,000 for a vehicle, only to have the feeling that the interior is coming apart when you touch it. And yes, you know exactly what I am talking about. You can't call yourself a luxury car brand and have squeaking and squealing noises coming out every time someone wants to press a button in your car. And if you think I'm being a jerk about this, just look at all the interior quality check videos on YouTube. There's nothing wrong with paying a premium price for a car and expecting premium quality materials. We all know who I was talking about earlier, but BMW is also no saint in this matter. You see, every time me and my friend take a drive in his BMW 3 Series and we come up to a corner, I have my earplugs at the ready. The sound of the door handle squeaking as my leg presses against it is almost unbearable. Sure, you may argue that the C-Class and the 3 Series are not premium cars, but you get the same kind of noises in more expensive models such as the E-Class and 5 Series. You can compare the interior quality of the two models I mentioned earlier with the one of the A4, and you will find out that Audi takes the lead again in this regard. Well, the praise should actually go to Volkswagen, given the fact that the VAG Group owns Audi. The best example I can give here is my own Audi A6 C7. The only reason I chose to buy it instead of a 5 Series is the interior and exterior design. There was something about that screen popping up in front of you that made me feel like I was about to pilot an airplane. Also, the placement of the start engine button. It being on the center console of the car instead of the usual place you expect to find the ignition button. These all might seem like small things, but for me, they played a big role in choosing the car I want to drive on a daily basis. Let's get back to the build quality itself. You can press all the buttons you like in the interior of the A6 C7 and nothing will squeak or squeal. You can have your passenger touch anything without fear of breaking apart your interior. Well, almost anything. Just don't touch that horrible plastic from the center console lighter. If you own one, you know what I'm talking about. Personally, since owning the car, I had to open it maybe once when I was plugging something into that power outlet. Other than that, I was shielded from the horrible experience of touching that thing because there simply was no need for me to do so. This is also something to take into consideration. I mean, sure, I understand cost reduction, but at least deduct the cost from something that the driver barely gets to touch. Don't subtract quality from the elements the driver always has to touch. So, again, when we talk about interior quality and the feeling you have when you sit in each of the three, Audi makes sure yet again to give its competitors a run for their money. Now, after we've covered design and interior quality, and how Audi is actually in some ways better than its competitors in those regards, let's talk about why Audi, in my opinion, is cursed. Driving experience. When you drive a BMW, you feel connected to the road. You feel like the car just wants you to push it to its limit in the upcoming corner. You feel like overtaking the car in front of you, because no other car should stay in front of your BMW. You feel like driving aggressively, because the car just demands it. You feel like doing some donuts or drifting into the next corner, because the car is just capable of doing so. When you drive a Mercedes-Benz, you feel like you're floating over the road, not driving on it. You feel like every corner you take is such a relaxing experience. You feel like no other car can ever give you such a smooth and soothing driving experience. You feel like the bumps and the imperfections of the road are not even a problem. You don't hear the wind. The outside noise becomes nothing more than faint background noise. It's just you and the car. When you drive an Audi, you feel nothing. It just doesn't have a personality. If I were to compare each of the brands with a person, Mercedes-Benz would be a suit-wearing handsome man who works on Wall Street, and BMW would be that cool guy or girl you knew in high school, always looking for the next party and fun to be around. But Audi would be that guy who just doesn't know what to do with his life. Let me explain. Both BMW and Mercedes do one thing very well. BMW is aggressive and sporty. And I'm not only talking about the M models, even engines such as the 2-liter diesel are more sporty in comparison with similar models from the other two brands. Mercedes gives you a smooth driving experience. It doesn't matter which model it is or how old it is. It manages to give you the same relaxing experience in any of its machines. And when it comes to luxury, Mercedes will always have the upper hand against the other two. Audi tries to be sporty, but it will never be as sporty as a BMW. I mean, sure, the RS6 is amazing, but it faints in comparison to an M5. Audi tries to be luxurious as well, but it will never manage to be as luxurious as a Mercedes-Benz, and it will never be able to give you the same smooth driving experience. It could be the fact that Audi is owned by VW. VW makes great cars, but they lack personality as well. But it's just a guess. Let me just say it again. I love my Audi, but at the same time, I can recognize its flaws. I think Audi makes great and beautiful cars, but they lack something that is extremely important to me. They don't give me the feeling that I'm driving more than just a machine on 4 wheels. You don't have to agree with me. This was just my opinion. Feel free to tell me yours in the comments.